And we are back, and we just finished what I consider one of my favorite films. This is definitely in my top, I would say top 5. I've loved this movie since the first time I saw it, and I love it still. We just finished watching it. It is 1942's classic Casablanca, rated PG, with a runtime of 1 hour and 42 minutes. This is based off the play Everyone Comes to Rick's, and has writing credits to Murray Burnett for the play, as well as Joan Alison. Screenplay credits to Howard Koch, as well as the Epstein brothers, Julius and Philip Epstein, for the screenplay. This was directed by Michael Curtiz, and this won, I think this was the very first Oscar, right? 1942. This won Best Film, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. This is the story of Rick, played by Humphrey Bogart, who owns a cafe and is sort of like the go-to spot for these displaced peoples who are trying to get out of
occupied France. And basically all of Europe during World War II.
Right. There's this really great narration at the beginning where they say
there's a big explanation in the beginning where people who just can't fly directly to America, there are a lot of people trying to flee to America. But they have to go through this roundabout way where they have to go to Marseille, then they have to go to Oran, and then finally to French Morocco, the city of Casablanca, where they wait and wait and wait.
Yes. According to IMDb, I guess the synopsis here is: a cynical expatriate American cafe owner struggles to decide whether or not to help his former lover and her fugitive husband escape the Nazis in French Morocco. And as we know, historically, who are better antagonists than Nazis?
They're always they're the best bad guys because there's nothing good about them.
Right. They're irredeemable. Yes. And brilliantly played by Conrad Veidt, right? What was your trivia fact that you told me?
Oh, he was the inspiration for the Joker, the original Joker.
I had no idea.
Yeah, the man who laughs. If you find a still shot from that movie, you will see where Bob Finger got the idea for drawing the Joker the way he did.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Or Bill Finger, sorry.
This is not your first time watching this. What did you think?
I still love this movie. This film is so good at the acting, the directing, the way it's shot. It's beautifully shot.
Yes.
The dialogue, there's so many awesome lines in it. Like I said, the actors, you have just this huge cast of characters. I love the way when you're in Rick's, like the way they first introduced Rick's, they're just going through the tables and there's like 1,000 stories going on in this bar. Mm-hmm. You're never going to find out anything about most of them later on, but it just gives the bar, like you said, Rick's is the place that you go when you want to figure stuff out, sell stuff, get papers to escape.
Make your exit,
gamble.
Yeah.
Steal. That's where the pickpockets hang out.
Yeah.
And apparently there's other places to go. You can go to the Blue Parrot, but
everybody goes to Rick's.
Nobody goes there. They go to Rick's. And the Blue Parrot is like, that guy's like the head of the underworld practically. But apparently his bar is just full of flies. So nobody goes there.
Rick also has Sam.
Rick's also got Sam.
Yeah, so
Rick's is just a nicer looking place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Blue Parrot looks like somebody's gonna knife you in one of those back booths.
Yes.
You'll be there for a week before they find your corpse.
This movie is 83 years old.
God damn. Yeah.
Amazing. And it still holds up. The dialogue is...
This film's in a nursing home.
It is. Yeah. It's on life support. But it is... Actually not. It's gangbusters.
It's immortal. It's still going strong.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm so happy nobody's ever tried to remake this because there's no reason.
Yeah.
There's no reason to remake
leave
this
it alone.
movie. It is
a classic.
It is an absolute classic, and they did it right the first time. I don't see how you can improve
on
upon this.
Yeah. What did Ben Mankiewicz say? He said that this is one of the first films that the Library of Congress put in their
archive, and rightfully so.
It is a classic,
an absolute classic.
Yeah. Your favorite, Peter Lorre?
Yeah, it's got Peter Lorre in it. Rick,
you despise me.
Rick, you despise me. I know you despise me, Rick. I love Peter. I've always loved Peter Lorre and his
Yes.
little, yes, master, his voice.
Yes.
And then he
gets carted away.
He gets carted away, and then the
and then
entire
it's so
time he's screaming,
nefarious.
Reek,
It's like,
Reek, help me, Reek.
and then it's so nefarious how, like, what's his name? Louis, like, yeah, we don't know if he died trying to escape or.
Yeah.
Oh, like,
yeah. Louis
dang.
Claude Rains is excellent in
excellent
this.
this.
He toes that line between like charming and just you dirty little scumbag.
Yeah. yes.
You're like extorting all these like refugee girls and just like, oh, round up the usual suspects.
Yes.
The usual suspects. Yes. That is an excellent line.
There's so many classic lines.
You know that there's just a bunch of poor saps in Casablanca who, anytime something bad happens, it's just like, oh, God damn it, and they're just gonna get arrested.
Yeah.
And at some point, they're gonna be the guy that gets called out on the lineup, even if they had nothing to do with it. It's just that was Claude Rains' police force.
Yeah. It was like Keystone Cops.
Yeah.
They did the bare minimum.
I'm shocked to find out that there's gambling in this establishment.
Yes, sir,
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. I mean, I'm always so impressed because it really is lightning in a bottle when you get a piece of art, because this is what this is. It's a film, but it is also a snapshot of the time. It is a piece of art. It is just like a historical document to have. This story pertains to a moment in our history where this, I think they were saying this was filmed right before Pearl Harbor, so before we officially got involved in the Second World War. So
no, this was filmed during World War. They rushed release because we had just launched basically our attack into North Africa.
Oh.
And that's where Casablanca is.
Is right.
So they wanted to sort of like, I guess, I don't know, get a little boost from that.
Yeah,
I
some
don't know.
PR.
But yeah, World War II is already going on because this film was made in 41 or 42. It came out in
42, but I guess it was made in 41.
Yeah. The production wasn't really that long.
No.
They made this thing quick.
Yeah.
It started in July and ended in August, or started in May and ended in August.
Fun fact from, I think, something that you read, I actually assumed that this had been filmed overseas in France or something. I don't know why, but this was filmed entirely in the US of A.
Yeah, at the studios.
Yeah.
Did a great job.
Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, there's a scene where I thought you see the Arc de Triomphe. I mean, I'm sure it's just found footage.
They used just stock footage of
stock
France
footage
for the exterior scenes, but everything, because most of this movie takes place indoors.
Indoors, sure. But even like when the people are standing outside and they're looking up, when the planes are going by, like there's like even the opening shot, there's like that building. I don't know where that is. I'm guessing that's somewhere foreign. I don't recall California buildings looking like that.
They would build some crazy sets back in the day.
I guess. Yeah.
Some place in California, probably burnt down 10 times over. But yeah, that's where it was all filmed.
Like that Escape from New York story, how they had like, what was it? It was in Missouri or something? Or
they filmed it in St. Louis, Missouri, because apparently there was just a fire and you could like look down a street and all you would see is burnt buildings. So they were like,
this is great.
This is Manhattan after they turn it into a giant prison.
Do you have a favorite character in this?
I mean, aside from Peter Lorre, who is not really in it very long, but Rick.
Yeah.
Rick. Yeah.
Rick is the everyman, the hero, conflicted because he loves Elsa and she loves him. However, he decides to be the bigger person here. And
well, it's just he knows that in the world that they live in, there are things that are more important than
the story of three people.
The love of two people, like long lost love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he does it. Plus, like he says, I got to do there's something I have to do and you can't be a part of it. Basically says, I'm just going to go out and kill Nazis.
He's back in the fight.
Yeah, he's back in the fight by the end of the movie. A spoiler alert for an 80-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely about like self-sacrifice and love and unrequited love and well, maybe not unrequited love, but long lost love.
Mhm.
And it's a complicated relationship because she fell in love with Rick when she thought Laszlo was dead.
Right. And she also says, like, when she comes to see Rick, I think the night, not the first night when he's, I love, God, the first time she comes to see him at night where he's just getting wasted, drunk. And he's just mean and just angry. And you could tell, and just the sorrow on his face. And even when he's said these like horrible things to her and she leaves, and he's just devastated. And he just like slowly falls.
He just slumps his head down onto the table.
It's just his acting is so great in this because you feel it. You feel that. You feel that just devastation for Rick, because it's like, and they interweave it with like the memories of happier days in Paris where they were together. And to your point, well, the point that I was going to make that you had sort of alluded to before, the other time where she goes to his I guess his dwelling with the gun because she wants the exit papers, and then she can't do it because she still desperately loves Rick. And she explains how she was a young girl and she met this man and he seemed so worldly and educated, and just she confused gratitude with love, and they were married, and she loved him, I'm sure, in her own way, but not like she loved Rick. I don't
think it was she confused gratitude with love. It was, she says it. She's like, he opened her eyes. He opened her mind. He opened her eyes to a world that she didn't realize, and she genuinely loved Laszlo. She was genuinely in love with him. When she thought he was dead, she was devastated, and then a year or so later, she ends up with Rick. And it's just sort of like, oh, a Paris fling. But then they fall in love. And then, oh, my God, he's not dead. Well, I don't think it was just gratitude.
Well, I mean, when you're that young, I mean, what do you know when you're that young? And back in the day.
This is a Hollywood movie from the 40s. Saying, people got married when they were 16.
Exactly. But that's what I mean. It's like back then you got married super, super young. And what did you know? And then.
No, you were an idiot, but as far as movies go, there wasn't any sort of second guessing that sort of thing.
No.
Just, they're young and in love, be together forever.
But that's the thing. But that's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of interesting because in this day and age, I think people weigh their choices a little bit more than just, I don't want to be an old maid, so I'm going to get married. And I think that's kind of interesting because back in the day, to your point, that's what you did. You got married and you realized that this wasn't it, but you sort of trudged through because you made your choice, right? It wasn't like people just got divorced. I mean, I'm sure people did back in the day, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't common. That
started becoming more prevalent later when people realized the fairy tale wasn't real.
Exactly, but I'm just saying
this is the height of the fairy tale. And
sure.
Not only that, but
you have a war going on.
Wartime,
right?
People were marrying their high school sweethearts, and it would be like, all right, we're together on the wedding night. I'm going to war tomorrow. And then they never saw them again ever because they were killed. So it was a completely different world.
Yeah.
You could have gotten married at such a young age and been like, oh, it was the fairy tale romance because he never came home with PTSD and a drinking problem. And as far as you know, everything was just puppies and rainbows. Nowadays, it's different. You don't get married young.
Right. You wait.
You're able to. You have more options. Women didn't really have a whole lot of options back then either.
Right.
It was your job. When you grow up, you're going to have kids and clean and cook, and that's it. Now it's
have a career.
Do whatever the hell you want. You don't have to get married at all. Well, they're going to call you a cat lady? Who gives a crap? Cats are awesome.
Cats are awesome. What do you think of Ilsa, the Ilsa character?
I mean, I liked Ilsa's character. She's definitely the one who is on probably the worst of emotional roller coasters in this movie, because it's like, the man I love is dead. Okay, I found new love. Oh my God, the man I originally loved and thought was dead is actually alive, and he's sick and he needs me. oh my God, there's Nazis. They're coming, and they're gonna. If I stay with this guy, we're both gonna end up in a concentration camp. All right, I'm gonna go back to the other guy. I'll never see Rick again. There was a fling. Okay. Next thing you know, your future of you and your husband depends upon Rick, because he is the guy literally holding the key
to you escaping
to America, which is like the only safe haven in the world
at this point.
At that point. So yeah, she is definitely on a ride there. And that's another thing that I like, because I've said it before. I like when there's believable complications to problems, or like there's a complexity that's added. And it's not just added. You could tell when they're like sort of phoning it in, like a writer is phoning it in, or just trying to like, oh, I'm doing this for the sake of doing this. This is something that's conceivable. It absolutely could have happened. It's not like now where like, you have communication at the drop of a hat. Somebody, if some world leader crapped his pants at a international function, we know about it. Back then, it was just.
It took a while to reach.
It took a while. It's just like, oh, he's dead. Okay, I guess I got to take that.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't he be dead? He was in a concentration camp.
It's completely
People
plausible.
Generally didn't leave those.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, okay, you did your time. No, it's.
Yeah, you're going to die here.
So, yeah, she's definitely had the most complicated. She's definitely, I would probably say, the least fun character. If you're looking for fun, entertaining characters, that's
Claude Rains.
Claude Rains, even Rick to a degree.
To a degree, yes.
I'm the absolute master of my domain here. The Nazis are here. You were saying.
I love that line.
Like Rick is just, he's got some sarcastic bites, some zingers.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking about Humphrey Bogart. Yeah, he wasn't a
universally handsome
dude. Like he's no Ryan Gosling
or back then like a Clark Gable or Cary Grant.
Those guys were
handsome.
You would probably call them pretty boys. You would never call Humphrey Bogart a pretty boy.
Yeah. Errol Flynn.
A little butt chin, the high cheekbones.
Yeah, but Bogey wasn't.
Bogey's face, he was just tough, weary guy.
Yes.
And
that's how he started his career
he was like a heavy in a lot of stuff and early stuff. But this is
so it's interesting to see him in these kind of roles,
and
because
I think that's what makes the roles like really good, because he is this mysterious guy who owns this establishment that, I mean, everybody respects this, but he's dealing with a lot of criminals. He's dealing with gamblers and stuff, and
Nazis.
Corrupt police and Nazis. And you don't see people
crossing that line,
messing up Rick's. Like there's no crap on the floor. Everybody's dressed up. Everybody's drinking out of little fancy glasses.
Yeah. And when there's a fight, he breaks it up, and that's it.
When there's a fight, he basically
squashes
it. You stop. There's no political crap in my place.
Yeah.
And it goes on, because look at him. You're not gonna
mess with Rick.
You replace Rick with Humphrey Bogart with Errol Flynn, and it's sort of like whatever.
Yeah.
Fancy boy, get out of my face.
Yes, exactly.
Humphrey Bogart, it's like, man, this guy looks like he drinks.
Yeah. He looks like he could do some damage here.
He looks like he's going to plow his fist into my face.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, since the first time I saw this film, I've absolutely adored it. It is a love story that does not end how you think it's going to end. I think originally when I first saw it, I was a little confused because Ilsa and Rick don't ride off into the sunset.
Yeah,
so
it bucks the saccharine Hollywood ending that you normally expect.
Yeah.
And
at the end it becomes almost like a buddy picture, because Louis and Rick go off into the fog into their future.
But also because it's like it doesn't end like I said with the saccharine ending, and it doesn't do that for a noble reason.
Right.
Because at that particular point in time, we're in like the heart of World War II. Mm-hmm. It's like sacrifices are made. For most, there's no happily ever after. It's you go there and you die on the field of battle, or you see something horrible or whatever. I mean, we were still in that age where, news really they weren't really reporting about the horrors of war. Right, it was more about the glory of war. And plus, this
war was overseas. Yeah. Like here in the States, we heard about it, but it was we didn't, like, to your point, we didn't see the actual horrors
I mean,
of it.
all wars have been pretty much overseas since, I guess, like the Civil War or whatever. But
Yeah.
for us, it's always been like that. But in the probably at the tour, like as you got to like the Korean War and especially the Vietnam War, that's when Americans started seeing
the
true absolute horrors of war. And you know what was going on around there, the protests and whatever. It became less about glory. So the horrors of war back then, 42, they still weren't there. It was just like, yeah, I'm doing my part. It was, yay, we're gonna kill Nazis, hooray! It's like we're in a Captain America comic. As far as like sacrifices went, you weren't really thinking about that. And this was, they're not really, I mean, not sacrificing their lives yet, but they're sacrificing something very precious. So that's why the film ends the way it does, and it's not a downer so much, but a choice.
This film has a lot of supporting cast that's pretty well known, I think, in the industry. You have Sidney Greenstreet as Ferrari. You have Peter Lorre as Ugarte. S.Z. Sakal as Carl, one of the I don't know if he was like the head waiter, the older guy with the glasses.
Yeah, you've seen him in stuff. I mean, you don't recognize the name, but you've seen him in things.
Right. So, but they all sort of have their moment. Like even Sasha, the character of Sasha, like all of them have their, they all sort of have their little character moments and stuff. And so that was like really nice to see as well. But obviously this film belongs to Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, Paul Henreid, and Claude Rains, and to an extent, I guess, Conrad Veidt, but definitely the first four. Again, this is the story of a man who's suffered a huge heartbreak and goes off to Casablanca to kind of maybe get over it, and throws himself into this establishment that he's created in the desert that also serves as this oasis for the refugees, and in the process is reintroduced to that love of his life and has to make these choices about what ultimately the path forward will be. And to that point, I think I also love the character of Sam, played by Julius Wilson in this movie. He is like the ride or die. He's there for Rick and basically says to him, let's just get in the car, we'll get drunk, we'll go fishing, let's just go. This chick's like a bad omen. Every time she comes by, just nothing but trouble happens here. And I love that. I love that because you always, whenever you see that character, I am always tickled. Whether it's him or John Ortiz in Silver Linings, just, bet. Yeah, just I love those ride or die characters. So
although he doesn't take Sam with him at the end.
He doesn't, because he's going to do that thing that he can't be a part of. He wants to, and I think at that point, Sam accepts it because Sam's like, I'll be your...
I don't know if Sam knows.
I'm sure too. Well, yeah, possibly not, but I doubt. Sam's a musician. Sam's not a fighter, right? So I think that, yeah, we don't know what their backstory is, right? So, but he definitely has a loyalty to Rick, and he's been with him at least since Paris, right? When they all meet. But I like that relationship too. But getting back to the other four, I'll go down the list. Ingrid Bergman is just stunning in this film.
Oh yeah,
everything about her, the way she's lit.
The thing about those films of that time, everybody looks so neat. Like
yes,
everybody's dressed
pristine and just
wonderful styles,
flawless.
Of clothing, and the way everybody looks, especially Ingrid Bergman. And
I mean, there's something ethereal at some point. I think you read something about how she was lit.
She was filmed in a special way with like a gauzy light.
Yeah, and it totally tracks, because when you look at her scenes, when you look at her, I think I've mentioned to you before, sometimes when we watch these black and white movies, like there's these close-ups of faces, and because black and white is so specific, you see the detail and stuff. And in this particular film, she is just luminescent. She is just luminescent. Everything is captured. Every little just change in facial structure. Her eyes are very expressive. Her clothing also lends to this like mystique kind of. I love how Louis says to her in the beginning, towards the beginning, how he'd heard that she was beautiful, but that those reports were like, didn't do her justice, right? And she smiles, and there's something very, it's interesting. She has this face that she presents when she's in the situation with somebody like Renault or Strasser, right? But then she almost becomes somebody else when she's with Rick in these intimate moments, right? She's a different person. Maybe she's more true to herself. And then there's the way she carries herself when she's with Victor. They seem to have this relationship. Well, obviously they have this relationship, they're husband and wife. But it's I don't know if you noticed this, but the relationship that she has with Victor is very different than the one that she has with Rick. The way she interacts with Rick is very different than the way that she interacts with Victor. It seemed with Victor.
I feel, yeah, I understand what you mean. With Victor, it's more about, I'm here to support him.
Right.
Whereas with Rick, there's more passion there.
So I wondered if
sort of logic versus emotion.
And kind of tying it back to sort of even the end of the film when Renault says to Rick, you fed her this line, but she didn't believe you. You're just telling her stuff to get her on the plane, but she didn't believe you. Like, you know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting because, again, to the way things used to be, how people just married to marry for whatever reasons, right? She had this, I would say, affectionate marriage. There's that cute scene where he says to her that he loves her, that Victor says that he loves her, and she goes, your secret is safe with me. She doesn't say, I love you back to him. She says, your secret is safe with me. Meanwhile, when she's with Rick, it's like, I don't want to be parted from you. It's, to your point, it's passionate. It's more emotional. So it's interesting, right? Because, again, it's a love story, but it doesn't end how you think it's going to end. And I remember the first time seeing this film as a young girl. I'm of the generation that was fed the prince, yes, the fairy tale, the prince, the happily ever after. So to see something like this was very jarring to me. It didn't make sense to my little brain.
Yeah, it's definitely doesn't fit that mold at all.
No.
It's a love story, but at the end of the love story, don't laugh, I'm going to say a word. Duty. Duty comes before love.
Yes. Okay.
Duty wins out over love. Told you that.
We are so immature.
Duty.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that for sure. But it's just interesting because, again, a lot of these pictures, I mean, a lot, even from the advent of film, you have love stories. You'll always have love stories, right? But this love story isn't typical because it doesn't end how you think it's going to end. And then it sort of morphs into this buddy picture because at the end, Louis and Rick are going off to have an adventure, right? So it's just, I always found that part interesting to me. And I think that kind of to your point too, I sort of saw Ilsa as a tragic character because here's a woman who found her love. I mean, she married for whatever reason. Was she in love? Possibly. I don't know. I thought not.
We don't know. Like, well, the issue is we don't know what it was like when they first met because another aspect you have to take into account with Ilsa's relationship with Rick versus Ilsa's relationship with Laszlo is Ilsa's relationship with Laszlo is several years old. Whereas she knew Rick for
however long she knew him.
Maybe a couple of months. So it's like this new young love.
Mm-hmm.
When you first fall in love, it's like, it's all about that.
Right. It's all passionate.
Right. It's all passion or whatever. And then years later, it's sort of like, oh, we're revisiting this. We're rekindling this. It's sort of like we haven't reached the stage in our relationship where we're farting in front of each other.
Yes.
Where it's just
still mysterious.
It's still
and
mysterious and fresh and
romantic.
You're actually making yourself look pretty.
Yeah. You're putting in the effort.
You're putting in the effort. Yeah. Like you're doing some push-ups or something. Now, meanwhile, you look at her and Laszlo, and it's like
they could be brother and sister. Yeah.
She's seen him like go to the bathroom with the door open or something.
I don't know about that, but okay. But I just
maybe not that gross, but she's definitely like heard him farting.
I always found that kind of interesting because this isn't what I was brought up on, right? You expect the happy ending
in movies, and especially in movies from that era,
right?
And that era, there was always like the happy ending.
And this is a somewhat happy ending because no one's carted off to prison, so there's that. And again, Rick and Louis are going off on their own adventure, but Ilsa's been relegated to this sacrifice kind of okay, well, you're going to stay with Victor Laszlo because he's an important piece of the cause, and in order for him to continue his work, you have to be with him. And it didn't matter what she wanted. Rick decided that it was better for her to go and be with Victor while he did his own thing. So
most people know the subtitle of this one was Casablanca, Bros Before Hoes.
Exactly. So I just again, I mean, it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the film. Obviously, sensibilities now in 2025 are definitely different than they would have been in 1942. So, and just as a society, we've moved away from certain things, and I think that if people were telling this story now, it would be remarkably different.
But please don't try and retell it.
Yes, but please don't try to retell it. But and I was just gonna disclaim it with like that doesn't necessarily make it better. I think that the amazing thing about this film is that it is probably something that was made in 1941, released in 1942, and still after 83 years is still a valid piece of film history, study of just this particular time in history about the things that were going on. I mean, it doesn't go into too much graphic stuff, but you hear there's the scene with the young girl who talks to Rick about, can I trust Captain Renault? And how she talks about how they're trying to escape to America because in her country, in Bulgaria, the devil, I love that line, the devil has the people by the throat. That is very specific. The devil has the people by the throat. And she goes into this whole thing, and that whole exchange is also wonderful. I mean, just the storytelling and the script writing on here is just top tier, unmatched. Yeah. It just really powerful and strong. And again, for something to have been written 83 years ago and to still land is just an amazing feat. Everybody that was part of this production should be absolutely proud of themselves and just gratified. It's unfortunate that it only won 3 Oscars, again, for director, picture, and original screenplay. But yeah, I mean, this is a just stellar production from start to finish and top to bottom. I just want to say a couple of more things before we wrap it up. The character of Rick Blaine, played by the incredible Humphrey Bogart in this, is at times, like you mentioned before, menacing, sometimes comedic, but there is this sense of just sadness throughout him.
Yeah.
Especially in that first sequence when he's getting himself plastered and she comes in to plead with him about the letters of transport or letters of transit. So he is kind of an unconventional leading man because, again, like we mentioned, he's not as good looking as like an Errol Flynn or a Tyrone Powers or those other actors from that heyday that were the strapping, handsome leading men. But I feel like it works here. And I think that it, to your point, it sort of it adds this element of humanity because he doesn't look like a pretty boy. And I loved the friendship between Renault and Blaine and Rick because it just felt very genuine. There was this respect for them, for each other. And at the end, it seems like they're going to go off on their own adventure. And that was also fun to watch because even though Rick doesn't end up with the girl, he's going to carry on. He's going to be all right. And he's going to have this guy be his ride or die, possibly. So, yeah. We're going to pair this with, or maybe not, actually, because as Reno said, he goes whichever way the wind blows, right?
Exactly. Renault, let's not
give him more
blow
credit.
too much smoke up Renault's ass. He is, when all is said and done, a scumbag. Renault is a scumbag.
But
so
a likable scumbag.
I could totally see if they ever made a sequel of them, like when they're way older. Basically, Rick just saying, "Yeah, that son of a bitch betrayed me," and then he just shows up, and then they kill each other or something.
Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that. But.
Renault's gonna do something shady.
Yeah. And again, to the point of the villains, the Nazis, Konrad Veidt is great as Major Strasser. One of my favorite scenes, I think I've mentioned this, is the battle of the national anthems and how the Marseillaise wins out here because everyone,
the whole bar,
the whole place stands up to sing the Marseillaise and drown out the Germans. So I think that's a very powerful scene. The implications of what that scene means are very important, and just
that's what gets the bar closed. Remember?
Right.
He's like, shut this place down.
Right.
For what reason? He's like, just
find one.
Something. Yeah.
Find one. Yes.
Shocked to find gambling.
But that's also, it's an important scene. It definitely adds to the story, and thinking of it in 2025, it's very powerful. So I'm glad that it exists. And it's out there in the ether. We're going to pair this with another kind of classic, a more modern classic, a couple of years from now, but still, or years past from now, but still just a banger. I'm super excited about our double feature this weekend. So this one goes out to all the lovers. This is Casablanca from 1942, currently streaming on Max.
We didn't give numbers.
We'll get to that in a second. This is from legendary director Michael Curtiz, who took away an Oscar for Best Director. This film is rated PG. There's no profanity. There's no excessive violence or anything. There's no frightening scenes, just really well-crafted storytelling dialogue. This clocks in at 1 hour and 42 minutes. This is a classic. There's no other word for this. I am going to give this a 10 out of 10. No notes. You couldn't improve upon this. And to your point, I hope that no one ever decides that they need to remake this or do a prequel or a sequel to this. What do you say?
Yeah, pretty much everything I'm in agreement with. It is an absolute classic. I'll give this a 9.75 because I don't give 10s.
I hear that. A 9.75, huh?
The thing that makes this film so good is just the incredibly sharp writing delivered by
all
outstanding performances from everybody, and every character is interesting in their own way, and the way that they could, even with like the minor sub characters, give them enough screen time and enough dialogue to give them personalities, even just random people in the bar,
like the pickpocket,
the random refugees that you encounter. What watch? This watch.
Yes, that sequence is
little bits of flavor here and there sprinkled throughout. The opening sequence, the first time you enter Rick's cafe, the way he shot that with the camera going through and you see these people are talking about something, and he doesn't murmur out the dialogue. Mm-hmm. You hear they're talking about something. Sometimes it's in a foreign language. Sometimes it's in English. They're talking about buying or selling something, or could you get me these papers or whatever. You never see these people again, but you see that stuff is happening in Rick's, and that every table, which is always full, there are tons of stories going on. Even when you're with the main characters, you're seeing people in the background. There's so much depth to the set and the way everything was shot, and the shadows and the lighting, and it's just brilliant. It's just really wonderfully done. So and as far as that goes, it's excellent storytelling, and like you always mention, film students should absolutely check out this. It really feels like Curtiz was just firing on all cylinders on this one.
And I also want to add to your point, the way you're introduced to Rick. You see the piece of paper where it's okay, Rick, right? And then you see the hand, and then the camera pans up to Humphrey Bogart's face. The same thing with Ilsa. She comes in with Laszlo, and it's interesting because she's coming in and she immediately, well, maybe not immediately, but she sees Sam. Sam sees her. And you can infer from Sam's expression, like, uh-oh.
I mean, there's a ton of heavy lifting done just by people glancing at other people.
And the close-ups.
The close-ups and the looks
Magnificent.
that everybody's giving, the way their eyes, is so much like, I don't know, eye acting.
If that's a thing.
If that's a thing.
It's definitely happening here.
It's definitely happening here.
Yeah.
That there's history there.
Yeah.
And the way they portrayed that, everybody did a spot on job.
Yeah.
Excellent work.
Really good. Really good. I could never say enough good things about this film. This is definitely within my top 5, maybe even my top 3. Now that I think about it, this is definitely up there. This is a piece of just cinematic brilliance, and just everything was like lightning in a bottle here, because everything just came together so well. The costuming, the set work. Again, I didn't know that this was all filmed in California and Burbank. I think that's hilarious. I genuinely thought that this was done overseas. The actors, all of them, I think you had read something to me about how during the battle of the national anthems, how people genuinely wept because they themselves were refugees, and how this must have impacted them.
And it was happening during World War
II, right.
They were literally refugees
in
of that specific conflict. It
right.
wasn't like we're doing a period piece. No,
this is in real time.
Yeah.
All right, so again, Casablanca, a classic from 1942, currently streaming on Max. Absolutely, if you have not seen it, go check it out. And if you have seen it, check it out again. It still holds up. And with that, we will bid you all a
good night.
Good night.